Well, welcome everybody. My name is Mark Trushkowsky, and I work with the City University of New York's Adult Literacy and HSE program, but I live in Minneapolis, Minnesota, and I'm super excited to talk about building inquiry in ELA and math with you all today. So, my goals today is I'm going to share bits and pieces of a pedagogy that I use when I'm thinking about my guided inquiry approach. And my hope and my goal is wherever you are on your journey with using, teaching and learning with inquiry, you'll take something away, something that to add to your toolbox or inspire you in something in a new direction. But before I go on, if you could let us know, it's at the end of the workshop, we're going to have a little bit of time in groups where we'd like to get you in by content. So I know that many of us are generalists, but if you're here today as a hero of math education, if you could just put that in the chat, or if you're here as a hero of ELA education, or if you're here as a hero of general content instruction, just put one of those three in the chat. Which again, you may teach everything, but if you'd like to focus on ELA, or if you'd like to focus on math a little bit when we do the breakouts a little bit later on, that will help us place you in a way that will get you in a place that's best for where you should be. So, sorry. I wanted to start off, thank you all. Keep those coming in. I want to start off with a quick story and give credit where credit is due, which is just a little story about my own beginning of my journey with inquiry and learning through inquiry. So it's 2001, and it was my first ever adult education class, and we were reading The Wizard of Oz. And I forgot to remember what chapter we were on, but they would read a chapter, we would do the reading comprehension questions, and things were going great, I thought. This wasn't a not great thing, but it helped me redefine what great was. I had a student who said, "But teacher, who is this scarecrow? He says he doesn't have a brain, but always he is the one to come to the good plan." And I was super excited by that question, and I was unprepared for that question, which I would say, luckily, thankfully, because I was unprepared, I just asked the class, well, what do you all think? And then it was like, a fire hose. Like, people were like, Dorothy, she's not meek, she's the bravest one, she's always saving everybody. And the Tin Man, when he steps on an ant, he cries, and the lion leaps over the chasm. And they just had all of these things that that had been in their minds, and all of these ideas started to come out, and the conversation then turned to why is it that each of these characters say they don't have the very thing that kind of defines them, that defines their strength, at least one of their strengths. And so then, kind of from that, we did a semester-long exploration of authority, and how and when each of us turns over authority over ourselves to other people. And so that was my first taste of kind of inquiry as like a content, as a frame of study that came from questions from my students. And for me, it was this really important moment, because it was I was a new teacher, and so it was the first time that I thought about my own authority as a teacher and the impact that has on students' voices and the way they see themselves in the classroom. Because when the heroes of the book go to the wizard has two choices, right? When they ask for a heart, a brain, and courage, he could say, I have the power, and grant those things, or he could help the traveler see that they have the power within themselves, if only they could learn to trust their own experiences. And so that kind of, I knew I loved the movie as a kid, but then, that book kind of was this stepping off point in my own experience as an educator. So thank you for your patience in hearing my story. It felt important for me to bring that. But so just to kind of talk us through our agenda, inquiry is the name of the game. And so my hope is that we're gonna, I'm gonna do some inquiry-based activities with you all. we're going to have some time to reflect on those activities as learners and as teachers, and then collaborate on some next steps, and kind of the depth of which we can do any of those things. We'll see. I've got a lot of things. I'm really excited to be here. So we'll see. But that's our basic. That's going to be the basic flow of what we look at today. So inquiry is, I told the story about 2001, my first experience, and it's something that's like a foundational core for everything that I believe about teaching. If I, when I was approached to kind of, would you want to talk a little bit about inquiry with folks, I was really excited because I love talking to other teachers about inquiry because it's so important, for teaching. And if I think about it enough, like even it's a foundational core aspect of kind of how my outlook on life. So, which is all to say, when I only have 90 minutes to talk about it, I find it useful to look at this cartoon, which is how to draw a horse. Draw 2 circles, draw the legs, draw the face, draw the hair, add small details. This is something I've been working on for 20 years, and I'm better at it than I was, and not as good as I'll be. And really where inquiry comes alive is in those small details. And so, I apologize beforehand. There's no way I can give enough time, but I will give time to kind of each of you figuring out, and each of us figuring out kind of what's the next step, what's a piece, how does this connect to what you're doing? Because this is an ongoing thing. And for me, and I hope for you as well. So if you're here already, I'm assuming you have some questions and ideas and thoughts about inquiry. And so please, if you could, just add a question that you have about learning through inquiry specifically. You can put it right in the chat. I'm gonna give you about 10 seconds. Lindsay says, what is learning through inquiry? What are the basic tenets? Excellent question. Natalie shares, how do we get our students started being inquisitive? Excellent. So keep those questions coming, because I'd like to have them in my mind just as I'm kind of directing the activities that we're doing. But I also, just to kind of to put myself in context in my own journey, I have some questions about inquiry, and you can, I'm sharing them with you, so they're there, and I'm going to share the slides. So if they're useful in questions themselves, but at this moment, I just wanted to, I'm sharing them all and kind of in the way that I'm sharing them, just to say that, Lindsay's question and kind of Lindsay and Natalie's questions are both, what is learning through inquiry? What are the basic tenets? How do we get students there? Those are questions I've been asking for 20 years and will continue to ask. Like that's kind of, and the questions that I'm sharing with you all here are those same. Like those are, to me, teaching questions that I will never fully answer. I will always have a different answer kind of as I'm learning and changing. So yeah, I wanted to kind of share that context from my own journey. So I wanted to start with a super basic definition or that I find helpful of learning through inquiry, just to create a little bit of a frame for some of the activities that we're going to be doing. So learning through inquiry, students describe objects and events, ask questions, construct explanations, test those explanations, and communicate their ideas to others. That's it in a sentence. Obviously, that is a very fraught and packed sentence that hopefully will have some, you'll be able to add those small details or start to add those small details later. So one thing I want to say, I want to let you know that I am going to go faster than I would with students. because of the range of folks in the room. You know, we have some math activities, we have some social studies, we have some science. We'll see how much of it we can get through. And I just want to, you know, I kind of want to, I want to engage you as much as I can as teachers and not just as learners. And so I'm kind of pushing myself out of my comfort zone to not keep us in the inquiry zone as learners, because I want to make sure that there's time and space for you guys to finish your horse. So this isn't an excuse, it's a choice. And I just wanted to be upfront and clear about it. And so with that, we are going to do an activity together. We'll jump right in. So I want to make sure, oops, that seems a little bit too big. There, can someone give me a thumbs up? Is that, can you see on that screen? Yep, okay, good. So here we have an image, and my question is, what do you notice? And if you can, we're a small enough group, if you don't mind unmuting, you can have your cameras on or off. If you're more comfortable, that's fine either way, but you can, of course, write in the chat, but if you could just unmute and just tell me what do you see? What do you notice?
I see that there are some numbers on what looks like some bones. There's number 51427.
Okay, so we see these numbers here. Okay, some bone. Okay. Oh my goodness. Hard on a touchpad. Let's see. What else do folks see?
It looks like there's some wire, like the item has been mounted.
Can you tell me, like, you're the brain and I'm the hand, so tell me, like, what are you seeing? Where can I draw an arrow to wire?
At the very end of the second digit, or the third digit from the top.
This one right here?
Yeah, right there.
Okay, so we've got some wire. Okay, excellent. Keep going.
It also looks like there's something between the bones of the digits. I mean, it's hard to tell what it is. It looks like it's shiny, like it looks golden color or bronze in color. Yep, right in there. And below that, it looks like some sort of connective something. I don't know what it.
I love connective. Let me get a text box in here so you don't have to watch me type this. Connective something. Excellent. I'm seeing some questions in the chat. I'm going to kind of just throw them in here as I see them come in. It's a skeleton, but is it a foot? Okay. So Teresa says it does not appear to be human in nature, but maybe a reptile. Teresa, can you tell us a little bit more, like, what are you seeing that's making you, that makes you kind of, that gave you that idea? What are you seeing in this?
It's just the size of each individual bone, I'm assuming. Kind of like an alligator, maybe. It doesn't seem like it's the anatomy of a human bone or appendage.
So when you're seeing the size of things, like what's the size of which part of it?
Like where the numbers are, S1427, that area. Yeah. And behind that, it's the joints. It just doesn't look like human to me. It could be an alligator or some form of reptile.
Excellent. Does anyone else have any guesses about if it's human, or if it's not human, what else it might be?
I was thinking it looks sort of the shape of a flipper, like maybe a whale.
Okay.
Shape of a what?
You said a flipper. Is that right, Connor?
That's right.
So can you say, like, tell me what you see that makes you say that?
Just, I guess, the sort of how broad it is, and
Mm.
it doesn't really look like some of the digits are fully opposable.
I want to add on to what Connor said. It looks like, I don't know what it would, the flipper sounds good to me because it looks like that's a ball joint on the right under where you're writing, Mark. It looks like it's a ball that would go into a ball and socket, like a shoulder. So a flipper, maybe, I don't know. I don't know enough about anatomy, but something along those lines.
That's a cool observation. I didn't even think about that looking like a ball joint.
Well, I am nursing a broken shoulder, so that's.
Well, I'm
Nice.
looking and I'm thinking if that were like the little one was like a thumb, it doesn't look opposable to me.
Mhm.
So it doesn't seem like it could move in too many directions.
Yeah, and there are also way more joints than human digits have, and also our hands and feet have way more little bones than that.
Mm-hmm.
I think.
More bones than in a human.
No, human has, oh yeah, more bones in the fingers than humans between joints, but the hand part itself, that what looks hand-like, I believe that we have more bones in there. I'm not sure.
And so, and I'm gonna put, since someone asked the question and I don't think we've answered it, is it a foot, is it a hand? I'm gonna put fingers. I think I know what you mean, but I'm just gonna say fingers.
Oh, good, Natalie, that's a good question.
How old is this extinct or existing creature? I love all these questions. So keep those questions going. We're certainly not done, but I'm gonna give you all a little bit more information because you've been so great. So you've earned a little bit more. So just to kind of, is an alligator, maybe some kind of reptile. Is it a foot or a hand? We're not sure, but it's something like that. And here we go. So what do you see now? What do you notice?
That's really big.
I think the idea of a flipper or some kind of a sea creature seems even more reasonable to me now.
Can you say what you see in this new picture that makes you think that?
Well, I just think that based on limited understanding of creatures that live in the sea that have that kind of structure, they can be very small, but they can also be very large. So I'm just looking and I'm going, okay, this might be small, but I can't really tell if the actual bone one that we were looking at looks super, super small, I guess, with the tag, but the one is obviously bigger in the picture you just introduced. And I feel like that would be reasonable, that this structure could appear on something small and also something big.
Excellent. I'm sorry, I chuckled not at what you were saying, but I saw in the chat someone asked, that is not me. Oh, you mean the guy? For a minute, I thought you meant the hand. But I am neither of those things. I'm neither that guy or the hand, or the the object. So it sounded like Christine was kind of starting to see what Connor was seeing, that idea of flipper. Do other folks, what else do you see? What does this new information give you, if anything? What other ideas?
So what I see in the photograph of what looks like is hanging on the wall, those the two longer bones make me think about, in our arms, between our elbow and our hand, there are two bones that give our wrist some of that mobility. And I wonder if those are similar to the way our wrists work.
First of all, have I identified the bones you're talking about correctly?
Yes,
These?
you have.
Okay.
And
Go ahead.
yeah, their wrists, they are like they're similar to our arm bones, but way shorter than human.
Can you say, because I'm looking at a human there, and those bones look bigger than his whole body. So when you say similar to human bones, but way shorter, can you say a little bit more?
Proportionally shorter. The length of from our elbow to our hand. Proportionally shorter.
Okay. Other folks, anything else you notice?
It makes me wonder about the Tyrannosaurus Rex, who has those really little arms.
Okay, any questions, anything you guys are wondering before we go on to give you a little more information? Okay. So I'm hearing it's a T-Rex, flipper, and maybe the idea of a reptile is still open. So here's your next piece of information. So what do you all notice now?
It does look like it's attached to something like a shoulder blade. Yeah.
So are you thinking that it's an arm, not a foot then? Or a leg?
I'm not, I am thinking that, but I could be wrong on that also.
Okay, questions.
Mhm.
So I'm going to say,
That occurred to me is that you can see it's attached to something very large. So immediately we got a different kind of a scale on what we were looking at. So it put it in different perspective for me now that it's attached to something else.
Natalie says it does look like a flipper or a fin, with it being positioned alongside the body. So we have something a little bit more specific. Connor had started us off with flipper, and Christine she came to that idea as well. So Vera is sharing, maybe it's the bones of a whale, which would be a flippered creature. What else do you all notice?
The way that this is set up, the ribs are the animal is horizontally positioned rather than vertically positioned.
Do other people see what Lydia, that was you, right?
Yep.
Do other people see what Lydia is talking about?
Yes, I see it.
Okay. Christine appreciated Lydia. She said it's a great observation. Christine, can you say kind of what Lydia's observation, what that stirred in you?
Yeah, I guess I didn't really think about it. I was kind of stuck on the fact that, like, the head, when if I wasn't looking at the foot or the flipper, it looks like a stegosaurus. I don't know why, but Lydia, when she said that it was horizontally positioned, I hadn't even noticed that. Like, I wasn't even thinking about, I was so focused on the flipper or whatever that happens to be, that I never thought about how it was perhaps displayed.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. And I'm also adding that some, excuse me, it was Natalie said, it looks like the creature has vertebrae, which is, you're the brain, I'm just a hand. Can Natalie, can you say what is vertebrae? What do you mean? What are you seeing? Like the spine? Okay. I'm guessing you mean this. Can you confirm that for me in the chat? Nice. Okay, so I'm going to give you one more piece of information, and this kind of piggybacks right on what Christine was just saying about Liddy's, or I think it is. So now we have a little bit more of a context. We're kind of zooming out. So what do you all see now? What do you all notice?
What a great big head that is.
So Liddy, when you say big head, what are you saying there? What do you mean?
The skull at the front looks really huge with really big jaws. Or, I mean, yeah, jaws or beak. I
love it. We're
I
just
don't know where-
noticing and wondering. Yeah,
yeah,
big jaws or beak, something.
It doesn't have teeth.
no, that's true.
It doesn't have teeth.
Alien whales.
Man, I'm not sure I caught the end of that. I thought you said baleen.
That's right.
Baleen. No spell check in Jamboard. So Connor, can you say what baleen, like what that word means, or what you're noticing, what you're saying?
Yeah, like the sort of filter feeding teeth things that like a blue whale has.
Filter feeding. Cool. Excellent. And then, yeah, so now I keep hearing this idea of a whale. It's coming up in the chat as well. Prehistoric. So that was Laura. Laura said it looks in the chat. She said it looks like a prehistoric creature. Laura, could you tell us a little bit about what you're seeing that makes you say that?
Oh, I just immediately thought that. I think it's really just reflecting back what everyone else is seeing, that it's a huge creature, and the size of the skull, I don't know, looked to me like a raptor or something like that. I don't know, a whale or a bird. I don't know, just a huge creature, something that one does not see nowadays, and that one would see in a museum.
Cool. So I'm gonna push us forward. I think my next, yeah. So let me just, yep. So it seems like it's come out already. I'm gonna give you one final piece of evidence, which is hopefully you'll be able to see this.
Whale.
You're listening to the sound of this creature.
Now I know it's not prehistoric.
How do you
Well,
know
it's not prehistoric, extinct. Well, not even that, because things go extinct.
So I'm gonna pull us to this, and now here's my final slide. So first of all, what is it that we're looking at?
A whale skeleton.
Yeah, we're looking at a whale skeleton. And so here, and I thought it was super interesting because I felt the same way, I had the same kind of comment and observation that that Laura had when she first looked at it. Until I saw this, I had never seen a whale skeleton. And so it was unfamiliar to me. I've seen the outside of a whale. I know what they look like from the outside. But no, I had never seen one from the inside. So I wanted to share with you, kind of going from the novelty of that, what do you notice and what do you wonder? And from this picture, you have the bones that you were just looking at and the meat around it. Any thoughts on the whale? Anything you notice when you're looking at this?
It is really amazing how much it looks like a beak. I haven't seen a whale skeleton like this either. And it's very interesting to me how different the outside and the inside look.
Other folks? Oh, Natalie says in the chat, I wonder whether whales evolved from a land or partially land-based creature based on the fin having toes or fingers. Natalie, can you say a little bit more about that? I know you're talking about this, but what makes you, like, why does that make you, where'd that question come from? She says, fingers and toes are used to grab onto things, climb, stabilize, yet you don't need them in the sea. Interesting, interesting.
I'm also struck by how far there's the skeleton is in the center, but there's a lot of not skeleton there as well. And in our body, our skeleton is pretty close to the surface in many places. You know, the bone is not, there's not a lot between the bone and the outside, and there's a lot more muscle, meat, I don't know what, blubber is there between the skeleton and the outside. And I think it's a really interesting question about the fingers and toes that Natalie raised. I'm pondering that.
Well, I, for one, am super excited that that has come up, because I would like to talk a little bit more about fingers and toes. So in a moment, and we're a good sized group, so I'm hoping you will be able to, yeah, you'll be able to look at a lot. So I'm gonna put you in a, or you're gonna go into breakout rooms. And we're going to share a Jamboard link with you where you are going to be looking at an image, and I'm going to show you the image in a second. And my questions are, what do you notice? What questions you have? And what animals do you think are shown in each picture? So don't start talking about it yet. You can see as we're getting the breakout rooms ready. Those are the 3 images you are going, excuse me, the 5 images you are going to look at. So what do you notice? What questions do you have? And what animals do you think are in each picture? And those, excellent. So if you could go into the Jamboard link that Lindsay just posted, we'll put you in a group. And just once you get your group together, just find a page. There's a bunch of the same page over and over again, so you can have your own space just working with your own group. And I can't give you that much time, but I'll give you maybe about 5 minutes. And so, yeah.
Okay, you want 5 minutes?
Yeah.
With what, a 1 minute warning, 2 minute warning?
Actually, let's give 3 minutes with a 2 minute warning. So that's actually proper 5 minutes. So it pains me to say that.
That's okay. So the Jamboard link, hopefully you've clicked on it, and I'm going to open the rooms. This is literally like a GED question mark.
I love it.
Where students had to look at like 4 or 5 different illustrations of a certain arm bone and what it looked like in different creatures. And I'm just like, this kind of thing would have been such a cool way to lead up to that.
Well, to share my secrets, this originated as it was a task question as well. But it was the same idea. It was, how can we make that question a little bit more fun?
Well, not just more fun, but just they learned more.
Right. Right. Well, I said that because I can't give away because we're still being recorded and I want them to hear the conversation. If I go to the chat, let me get my screen big so I can see you all. And get the chat back. So many things disappear. Okay, excellent. So welcome back. So again, not an apology, but just acknowledging that was much faster than I would have liked to have given you. There were much less time than I would have liked to have given you. But I'd just like to hear a little bit about what you all talked about. So first thing, what animals do you all think these are? Anyone have any guesses for what A is?
We thought that was a whale.
I think that was both groups. Nice. Okay. So, and that's a little familiar ground. How about B? What are we looking at there?
We thought it was a human skeleton.
One vote for human.
Yep, we did too.
Yeah. Anything else it could be?
How about gorilla?
Okay, maybe. How about C? Oh, it's killing me to keep going, but C. What about C? What do folks think that was?
Some kind of insect.
Okay.
We were guessing it was a bat.
Okay. So bat or insect. Okay.
We said a bat.
A bat. Yeah, bat came up in both groups, and insect. How about D?
Well, our group thought it might be a chicken because we really weren't sure what else it could be.
Right. People were, and you were looking at the claw at the bottom. These things here. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this was definitely the hardest one. Well, this one and you actually were both a lot harder.
Okay.
We talked about maybe like a lizard came up, or yeah, we were also thinking a lot about.
Connor, you came and went a little bit. I heard a lizard, and then if you said another guess after that, I didn't hear it.
Yeah, we weren't really sure. Some of our guesses included lizard, but I can't remember any others.
And so you said D was was the hardest. What did you all think was? What did you get up for E?
We didn't have a guess for that one either. It was also.
Yeah, we had, I think, two things that we were talking about, either a bird or maybe like some sort of primate, like a monkey.
Mm-hmm. So were this a class, I would want to push more and hear more about all the different things that you were looking at in these images that came up that brought you to your guesses. But I'm going to move us forward. First thing I want to do is I want to share what the actual animals are. So you all did pretty well. D was a lizard. It was definitely the hardest. First time I saw it, I thought maybe it was some kind of a dog, but it was a lizard. And then chicken came up, but some people thought the D was a chicken here. But E is the chicken, which the idea of a wing did come up from some folks. But I wanted to, the reason why I'm pushing this forward is because I want to ask a slightly different question, which is, what do you notice when you look at these 5 pictures? Like to look at them collectively.
When we were trying to figure out what E was, we spent a lot of time comparing and contrasting it to E. We noticed that there is some sort of like small nodule at the base of the two bones. And so we were sort of like trying to use what we thought of one to try and figure out the other.
So if I can, so I think, again, you're cutting in and out a little bit, but if I can, and other people from Connor's group can please weigh in, make sure I'm getting it right. But I heard that you were looking at E and B, and you were looking at these two, you were comparing, and you were looking at those two bones. And
E and D.
E and D, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So you're kind of comparing those. And then you said something about a nodule. Did you mean above or below?
Below, so sort of vertically above E, and
Yes.
then yeah, right there.
Kind of like that, those spots.
Yeah.
Okay. And so what question came up, or what were you wondering about?
Just they look like kind of similar structures, and so maybe they were related animals. They serve the same function.
So similar structures, related animals. So you kind of have taken us, looking at that comparison, and I just wanted to talk a little bit, just to put some language out there, and I'm going to go through it quick, but just because it might be helpful. So this is the human. So this top bone is the humerus. Then those two pieces, we have the ulna is the thinner one, the ulna, the radius. We have the carpal bones, the wrist, metacarpal bones, and the phalanges. Just to put some vocabulary out. But why do you think I put all 5 of these images on one slide? Why are we looking at a whale, a human, a bat, a lizard, and a chicken?
Maybe we all shared the same anatomy.
So sparks more questions than just looking at it one time. Natalie shares in the chat. And Teresa, you said maybe they all share the same anatomy. So do you think that they share the same anatomy?
I would like to say yes, just different scale maybe.
Okay. What are other folks think?
It looks like a lot of those are the same. I mean, not all of them. I mean, some of them have more digits than others, or more pieces. But yeah, there's a lot of similarities in the general shape.
So I'm curious because I'm looking at a whale, a human, a bat, a lizard, and a chicken. And so I'm curious to what other animals do you think have similar bone structure in their forelimbs? Like, so we have whales, humans, bats, lizards, chickens. Anyone have any ideas about other animals that might have a similar bone structure?
Other primate.
Like, can you give some animal names?
Sure. Gorillas, chimpanzees, monkeys, other monkeys.
Okay. Other folks, what other animals might have similar
Ducks
bone?
and geese.
Ooh, ducks and geese. Okay, keep them coming. I can type so much faster than this.
Monkeys,
Mhm.
gorillas.
Any others? We've got some primates, we've got some birds.
Well, people kept talking about alligators, and I don't know anything about the structure of alligators, but my guess is maybe, I don't know.
So that's, I'm going to put alligators question. And so, yeah, so if you have one that you think, but you're not sure, tell me, let's put it down and I'll put a question.
Dolphins or sharks?
Dolphins. Oh, I'm sorry, were dolphins and sharks guesses or questions?
I'm thinking because of the whales and you know the.
Right, and along with that, sea lions and all those other manatees.
Oh, thank you, Lindsay. So I'm going to leave these questions here. You'll have access to it. You have the question already in your mind, but I want to come back because this idea of, when I wrote it down, which one did I write it on? This idea of similar structures and related animals, that's actually a question that lots of people have posed before us, including Charles Darwin. Charles Darwin thought about this question a lot. Here it says, how about all animals? Now that is a profound and beautiful statement that we don't have time, but that's out there. She's put her idea out there for the rest of us now. But I want to share, The Origin of Species is a book that was written by Charles Darwin in 1859. And in that book, he wrote, what can be more curious than the hand of a man formed for grasping, that of a mole for digging, the leg of a horse, the paddle of a porpoise, and the wing of a bat should all be constructed in the same, on the same pattern, and should include similar bones in the same relative positions. So I'm gonna give us just a kind of minute to stop and think for a second. So just in the chat, just at this point, finish just one of those statements. One thing you learned was, one thing that surprised you was, one thing you will remember is. But just put some idea in the chat, and then yeah, leave it there. Christine shares, one thing I've learned is how much of a whale doesn't include bone structure. Vera said, all creatures are similar, no matter the sizes. I'll remember that whales have hand-like appendages. Excellent. So keep those ideas coming in the chat. And so now I'm going to ask us to shift a little bit and focus with our teacher lens, but answer the question on the slide, which is, what do you think my learning objective was here? What's the content? How an image can spark a discussion in which all students can participate regardless of their background, said Teresa. Anyone else? And you don't, I'm sorry if I said in the chat, you could just say out loud what you think my learning objective was, what the content was. Compare and contrast images and ask questions. That living things have some similar skeletal structures that differ due to need or use. Evolution. It's hard to tell the whole by looking at the parts. To keep asking questions and to verify. I love asking this question, what do you think my learning objective of? Because it makes me sound so smart when all these amazing things come out that people say. And I like to think all of those were in line with what I was thinking. And one specific scientific concept that I was hoping to get at was the idea of homologous structures, just that idea that similar skeletal structures exist across different kinds of creatures. And so my question is, we just spent an hour talking about all that. So why not? We didn't have to spend that hour. I could have just told you all organisms evolved from one common ancestor. Here's the evidence. And so I'm gonna, now as a teaching question, just like, I'm gonna put that out there. Why not? Why not just tell students? Even if you think we should tell students, even if you think that was time wasted, let's think just for a second about what would be the benefit of doing that, of not just telling them, but going through what we just went through. And you could please feel free to unmute because we all know each other at this point. Natalie is saying it will stick if students come to the answer on their own through critical questioning and thinking. Lydia says way more engagement and constructed knowledge. The aha moment, seeing it for yourself. Christine says it taps into the idea of patterns, which the human brain likes. I would think, and one thing to add to that, not only does the human brain like the idea of patterns, but patterns is across all content. I mean, patterns exist in math, they exist in social studies, in history, they exist in science, kind of, it's like a cross-content cutting theme. Fosters curiosity. Okay, again, excellent. To add to the things that are coming in, I just wanted to share one thing that I read, and I put the source that this is from in the resources that we're going to share at the end, but one particular quote I wanted to share for me that really resonated about why I tried to do this is there on the screen. I'm going to read it. Model of the student as an empty vessel to be filled with knowledge provided by the teacher must be replaced. Instead, the teacher must actively inquire into students' thinking, creating classroom tasks and conditions under which student thinking can be revealed. Students' initial conceptions then provide the foundation on which the more formal understanding of the subject matter is built. So I just wanted to put that out there. I feel like if you're anything like me, the experience of having gone through, having that experience as a learner and kind of reflecting on that speaks more than the research. But this particular, I came across this article very early in my teaching, and I have not forgotten about it since. It really made an impression. And so if you find it as helpful, I wanted to share it. Okay, so I'm trying to be mindful of time because I do want to make sure that we have some specific time to push in as teachers. But I wanted to talk a little bit about math, but I hopefully I think this is something that we will all be able to engage with. So on the CCRS, one of the standards is knowing a precise definition of a circle is something that students should know. And so there's a precise definition of a circle. Two-dimensional shape made by drawing a curve that is always the same distance from a center. So starting from that's very dry and kind of, I think I know what I mean. Certainly I read those words, I know what each of those words mean in that sentence, but kind of what that actually means is something that I wanted to play around with today. And so what I'm going to ask you to do right now is draw a circle. Just a piece of paper. Hopefully you have something near you, a pen or pencil. I'm sorry, I meant to suggest that you grab one. But just everybody take about 10 seconds, 30 seconds, just in case someone needs to run across the room. And draw a circle. No tracing, no using a compass. Don't take your coffee mug and like do something like that. Just freehand, as free as that is my model that I did up there. So does everyone give me a thumbs up? Does everyone have a circle drawn? Excellent. So let's all do, if we could all do it just like Vera is doing, if you could hold yours up, and I know some of you don't want your cameras on, but if you just like block your camera, block your whole screen, I just want to see some circles. I'm going to try to grab a screenshot of it. So if you could all hold up your circles with your cameras off. Christine, perfect. Jeez. Christine, can you keep holding yours up? Because I want to get one where they're all, sorry, keep holding it up so that, give about, keep going. Anyone else joining? Anyone else able to do it? Ooh, Lindsay showing 3 circles. She ate one of them. What happened to the circle on the bottom? Laura, okay, Vera, will you hold yours up again? Okay, excellent. So those circles are all there. I appreciate that. You all are much better at me than drawing circles freehand. I'm very impressed by that. So we're not going to do this activity. This one I'm pretty much just going to describe. We'll do a little bit of it as learners, but mostly I just want to kind of talk about it as teachers, because there's lots of ways to kind of explore this question, right? Because the question that I want to ask you all is, whose circle is the best? Whose circle is the most circular? But just for the sake of time, and just for the ease of our conversation, I created a little, sorry, I need to open this up a bit. I created something that we could all look at. So these are 4 circles that I drew. So I'm going to give you about 10 seconds in the chat. What I'd like you to do, don't hit enter, but put the circle that you think is the most circular, the best circle. And I'm going to let you define that as you will. And put that number in the chat, either 1, 2, 3, or 4, but don't hit enter yet. We're going to do it all at the same time. So take 10 seconds, just go with your gut. Which circle is the most circular? All right, on the count of 3, we're going to have a waterfall chat. So hit enter. 1, 2, 3. Boom. We are almost unanimous? We are unanimous. Everybody likes 1. So can someone talk to me about 1? Why is 1 the most circular? Why is 1 the best?
Some of them look a little bit elongated, like number 4 and number 2 may look like an egg to me. So it's not like a perfect circle, if you will.
So you're saying 1 and number 2 and number 4 are a little bit elongated?
Yes.
Okay. That was Teresa. So somebody else? Maybe let's hear from 2 more people. Kind of what went into your estimation?
And also number 3 has a kind of flat side on the bottom left, the bottom right.
That's right here.
Yeah, that side.
Okay. So you have this little like flat moment. Okay.
Yeah.
So what's wrong with the flat moment? Why isn't that circular?
Not round enough.
Not round enough. Okay. So if I wanted to actually, like, what is it? Is there a way to like measure or to check or to test how circular a circle is? That's how circular a circle is. Any ideas?
Well, I wonder if you folded them, if you fold one, could you, and held it up to the light, you know, would all the fold it in half and have all the edges, would they all match? That's, wouldn't be perfect, but one.
And so if we folded it and held it up to the light, what would we be looking for in terms of like determining which is more circular or not?
Well, if you fold it, if all the lines match, then it would be more round. If there are lines that don't, if there are places where one part is flatter or one part is longer, then it, and I guess you would have to do that in a couple different, in more direction than one, because it's like an oval. Right, yeah, symmetrical, Lindsay, exactly. But if it's an oval, then that won't, you know, you have to do it on more than one. I don't have the math words. What more than one?
Well, you said direction.
More than one line of symmetry.
Well, but before we put math words on it, I thought the word you said you'd have to do it in more than one direction.
Right.
So like you would fold it this way and then you would fold it this way and you would see both of those. And maybe that, yeah, okay. Excellent. Anybody else? Another suggestion about how we could figure out the circularness? Which one is more circular? Vera, you said in the chat, I'm seeing, because the diameter is the same.
Yes.
Can you say a little bit more about what you mean? Or
If you measure from top to bottom or from left to right, the distance, the measurement should be about the same.
Does everyone agree with that? Natalie agrees. So for example, if I were to say have a ruler, we could say, well, that one is 5 inches or 5 units. That's 5. That's pretty good. Okay. And then this was the one that Teresa said was wonky. So that's 4 and something. Let's see if, okay. All right. Any other ways that we could check to see which is the most circular? Oh, wait a minute. Wait a minute. So that's like a couple of tick marks past this big tick mark here. So that's pretty close. Is 3 actually the winner? Is 3 more circular?
Go at the north, let's see, northwest to southeast.
North, I like using the cardinal. So like from there,
yeah,
to there. All right. See, I knew, Liddy, you'd mess me up. You'd look at my flat, the weakest link in my circle.
Yep.
Okay, so I'm gonna stop us there. I mean, obviously there's a lot more we can do, and obviously I would be having you do the actual thing. Oops. But I want to go back. So my challenge was I wanted to make this pop a little bit more. I wanted to make it. Oops, sorry, I can't share. Yeah, there we go. I wanted to make this fact pop a little bit by having you guys play with it and come up with some circles and then some way to actually come up with your because I don't know if, like, just to be explicit and straight up, the methods that you were coming up with for how to test the circular nature of each of the circles that I had are aspects of the definition of a circle. And so that was just my goal, to take something that's very straightforward, very easy to just convey, and leave it at a two-dimensional shape made by drawing a curve that's always the same distance from a center, but to play with it a little bit. To give one other direction of how to play with that, this was another thought I had. Kind of a two-dimensional shape made by drawing a curve that is always the same distance from a center. From that, to share those two images, and just the idea of a ripple, you drop something in and that's the center, and then everything else that comes out is a circle because it's spreading out equally from that. Or a piece of grass in the sand, in case it's not clear what that is. It's grass that the wind has blown, and so the grass is attached at one point in the center, and so it's formed, that's nature's circle, just with like wind that blew it around its path. So I'm gonna go a little bit faster now. So just one, and I didn't want to do this one because I felt like this was a lesson that appears in lots of math classes, but and so I feel like it's maybe less novel. But since there are a lot of folks here who don't necessarily, math isn't their specialty, and also because it connects to something that Christine said, that idea of patterns. So it's coming up on March 14th, which is everybody's favorite time of year when people talk about Pi Day, PI. Yeah, exactly. Lindsay's excited, Pi Day. And so this was probably the first discovery lesson I ever did with students, and this is data from a class, but I brought in a bunch of circles, quarter, a can of tuna, a plate, a vinyl record, a CD, a wall clock, everything I could think of and bring in. I actually didn't bring in a car tire. I brought in everything else. And I just had students measure it. And all they did was they had string, because it's hard to measure this outside of a circle. And so they measured the length across and the diameter. And we had our table here. And we just looked at it. And the question I ask is, what patterns do you notice? Because there's patterns in science and there are patterns in math. And so, does anyone see any patterns? And I'm going to ask if you are a math teacher, and maybe, or even if you're not a math teacher, but if you knew before I showed you this, a particular pattern, I'm going to ask you to hold back. I'm just curious for folks that have never seen this. What patterns do you notice? I recognize that's not an entirely fair question to kind of just throw at you quickly. Well, so then actually what I'm going to do, because I'm going to share these slides with you, I'm going to leave that question open. What patterns do you notice? Because I think it's worth it to play around with. And if you want to have I forget what day of the week. What day of the week is Pi Day? It's Monday. So if you want to appreciate something magical on Monday, stick with that question. What patterns do you notice? A couple of people are putting it in the chat. So now Vera shared a formula that for sure is there. Maybe baby girl. Yes, it could happen. Good luck. So one thing that Natalie has noticed is that the circumference is a little more than 3 times the diameter. So let's just check that out, since that's one, we have some data here, some evidence we can look at. So a quarter is 1 inch across, and it's 3 1/4 inches around. A can of tuna is 8 centimeters across, and it's 24.5 centimeters around. A plate is 10 inches across, and it is 31 inches around. A vinyl record is 12 inches across and 36 inches around. I see that Teresa is agreeing. And in fact, it's true. And the first time when I first did that, you know, because I had just been taught pi is 3.14 or pi is 22/7. It's just a thing. You just know it. You just memorize it. But what it actually is a relationship that's true of every single circle on the planet, including the planet itself. And so let that be with you on Monday. So just to give you a little preview, we're not going to have a chance to do it, but there's some social studies stuff that I'm going to give you some time to play with. But I'm going to ask you, I'm going to give you 5 minutes. I'm sorry that it is all the time that we have. But I wanted to return to that idea of inquiry. Inquiry through learning is students describing objects and events, asking questions, constructing explanations, and testing those explanations and communicating their ideas to others. I think, actually, Christine, I think we'll just stay together just for the sake of time. But what I'd like to do is a group, so let me pull it up so we can do it together this way. I can share, but I'd like to fill in some of those small details. You know, sure, that's what it is, and that's the definition we started, but I'm curious, you know, what did you see me do? What felt important of the things that you saw me? And I don't mean like, I don't have a specific thing that I'm looking for. There's not a specific thing that is important. I just tried to do an inquiry-based lesson as to the best of my ability at this moment. But I offer it as like just something to observe and to think about inquiry. So what did you see me do, and what felt important to you, like in terms of what you might do with your students, other ideas that came out, just kind of participating in those activities. But what are some of those small details? What did you see me do? What felt important? I'll leave it just with those questions to start.
I noticed that you listened to what people said, and you tried to keep our ideas without, you rephrased only for clarity. You did not change around what we said, which validated me as a learner, you know, that my idea was, whether it was right or wrong, it was my idea.
Someone else? Something I did that felt important. I'm going to add the things I see in the chat. Vera said, make students think instead of being fed information or facts. Laura says having students work collaboratively. Laura, can you talk a little bit about that? Like, why was that an important part of your experience?
So we just had, well, we've had the opportunity of breakout groups and then constantly interacting here through, just speaking. But bouncing ideas off each other and thinking out loud, I think, is a good way of learning, because one idea can spark another and it helps you to think through to the next step.
And I would add on to what Laura said, it made me be more curious. When I heard other people's questions or observations, it sparked my curiosity.
So embarrassing you guys get to see me, my bad typing happen in real time. This is not my plan. Other folks? Anything I did that felt important? Or any ideas that you had that were different from things I did? Something you think I should have done, something you would have done? Teresa, will you say, Teresa said, she wrote in the chat, each activity allowed us to share our perspectives. Can you say a little bit more about why that was important to you? Okay.
So, for example, when it came down to the bone activity, like another participant, another participant stated that, her husband had, a science background. So for him, it was a little bit easier to share his perspective of what he saw and what he thought it was. Well, for maybe some of us who do not have that background, it allowed us to come up with ideas and become engaged and more involved. And it kept the lesson going. We had no time to stop and question. It was like very fluid.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. I like what Teresa said, and I agree. Like, I didn't know what what that was, even though my husband did. And what I liked is I think it's a powerful demonstration of how multiple voices can come up. Like, together we can do something that maybe we can't do by ourselves, right? Together we can build that knowledge and figure things out. Whereas by ourselves, we may not have been able to really figure out an answer. So I like that. I think it shows the power of collaboration.
Awesome. Well, thank you all. I just want to do two things and have us end at time. So one thing we're going to do is we're going to share the participant folder. And so the slides that we just looked at are not there yet, but they will be. But I just wanted you to see kind of what's here. There's some readings on inquiry I thought might be interesting. There's some math specific inquiry resources. And then in this build and inquiry activity, I just put together just some images and some slides. I haven't created an activity, but I thought that they would be ripe and interesting. And so I tried to give it a little bit of a title so you can see kind of what's there. And if any of them are interesting, I'd love to see what you come up with. I would certainly love if you try any of it in class. I'd love to kind of hear how that goes. That evolution sequence that we did, including the questions that I asked, they're separate slides that are just that. And then there was some graphs looking at the civil rights movement. We didn't get to that, but the slides for doing that, just as an independent thing in case you wanted to do it with students and you didn't want all the other kind of workshop-y slides. So that's there. So that folder is in the chat. Play in real time here. And so it's 3:30. I just wanted to take all of the questions I did and kind of, these are the questions that I'll be asking myself because I just kind of turned all of them, focused them on me. But I really appreciated that idea of how did I draw on your experience and help you value group experiences and learn from them? I really appreciated your comment at the end there, Christine and Teresa, because that kind of spoke to that. And that's something that is an important part of this piece for me. That's my information. I would love to keep in touch. I know people say that and I mean it. If nobody emails me, I'll feel sad. I'll feel like you don't like me. There are a couple of additional resources, just places to go that I would recommend. And I just wanted to kind of leave with a final thought by an educator who I respect a lot, who kind of puts inquiry this way, you know, who talk, like just as a simple final thought, who talks, who listens, who does the thinking? The key is to keep the students at the center. We, their teachers, can help, but they are the ones who need to do the learning. And with that, thank you all. I know there's so much going on right now, and so I really appreciate this time together to be able to spend this with you. Thank you, Lindsay and Christine, for having me. And
Thank you so much,
your
Mark.
seamless tech report.
Thank you.
Support.
Most helpful.
Awesome. Thank you, everybody. And I'll stick around if anybody wants to, but I did want to be cognizant, respectful of your time. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You.